Welcome to the Light Seekers Lounge. I'm Annie Love, and this is episode 101. My guest today is Amy Bett. She's an eternal optimist, founder of multiple businesses, host of the Lady Without Limits podcast, and she seems to have energy to burn, which is lucky because she's also a wife and a mum to 3 gorgeous girls. As you'll discover in this episode, Amy initially became a business owner out of necessity after her husband suffered a brain injury and she suddenly had to become the sole provider for the family. While her events business appeared to be very successful, Amy said she felt incompetent and ended the business after 3 years, mainly due to cash flow challenges. Wanting to get a better understanding of how to manage her money led her to Profit First and becoming a Profit First professional, which means that she is an absolute ninja at helping business owners transform their financial position and reclaim control of their lives. She has now guided over 200 successful students in her Money Mastery online program to set up strong financial foundations, master their mindset, and scale their income online. I am a big believer that we need to be having more open and transparent conversations about money, and I really love the work Amy is doing in the world to empower business owners. She has been a real inspiration to me personally, so it was such a delight to have this conversation with the beautiful Amy Bett. Enjoy. Hello, fellow seeker of light, and welcome to the Light Seekers Lounge. I'm Annie Love, and I'm a certified coach for incredible humans who want to build wholehearted businesses. I help them master their mindset, create simple strategies, and take meaningful action towards their goals in a soul-nourishing way that honours their business, their family, and most importantly, themselves. I'm also a wife and a mum to 3 gorgeous boys. Our parenting journey has been, well, a bit of a roller coaster. And while our family has navigated some pretty tumultuous times, I've learned just how important it is to keep seeking the light and the joy. Even in the midst of darkness, I believe that we can find light on the other side, even if the landscape is different to how we expected it to look. Here in the Light Seekers Lounge, we're going to share stories and conversations about how we create our best life, even when things feel hard. Thank you for being a light seeker with me. I am so glad you're here. Now, let's get on with the show. Amy Bett, thank you so much for coming into the Light Seekers Lounge. I'm so grateful to have you here today.
Annie, thank you for having me. It's always a beautiful chat with you.
Oh, thanks. It's kind of funny that Facebook ads brought us together. But for me, I had read Profit First by Mike Michalowicz and knew that I wanted to implement it, but I felt like I just needed a little bit more guidance. And then lo and behold, what pops up but your beautiful face on Facebook ads asking about business bank accounts. And I was like, I'm going to start following her, and then led me down the, I was going to say tunnel or funnel of, coming into your course and then having a one-on-one session with you. And then I just feel like we're kindred spirits in a lot of ways. So here we are.
Here we are. We are definitely kindred spirits. I fell in love with you the second that I met our first one-on-one, Annie.
Oh, you're very sweet. And then you've inspired me to go on to become a Profit First professional myself. So that's very cool. But anyway, back to you. How would you describe yourself?
Oh, my husband would probably describe me differently.
Let's not worry about him.
No, he would probably. I would say that I am generally an optimist, like an internal optimist through and through, which really does work for me a lot, but also it gets me in trouble because I often will commit or do things without thinking through all of the different scenarios that could eventuate. I would say I have rose-colored glasses on most of the time, and I just think, let's do it. It'll work out. And it does. And I think, it has led me into some really cool situations. As I said, it's also bitten me in the butt a few times too.
You are a business owner, a mum of 3 gorgeous girls. you, like my reflection of you, and I'm thinking we haven't known each other for a particularly long time, but I feel like you have such a generous spirit. Like, and I think that optimism comes in there because you go, oh yeah, I could totally do that for you. I'm like, how are you going to fit that into your busy schedule? Like, it's like I'll work it out.
The reason that I said my husband won't agree with me saying this is because usually I'll also lump things onto him. Like if somebody, I'm like, oh, my husband can help you with that.
You're a good delegator.
I'm a good delegator. Yeah, but yes, thank you. That was really nice to say that I'm generous. I do really enjoy supporting people, but yeah, as you said, sometimes it is at a detriment to my sleep and everything else.
Sleep. We'll sleep when we're dead, right?
Exactly.
Now, your leap into business ownership came out of necessity in a very hard time of your life. Could you share a little bit about what life looked like at the time when your husband had his accident and how that changed everything for you?
Yeah, so as you said, I became a business owner out of necessity. Jay, my husband, he suffered a brain injury, a frontal lobe injury, post-concussive syndrome, they call it, playing football. We've both worked for the Cotton On Group and we really loved our jobs. We just were having the best time. I think we're in that prime of our lives as well. Well, he was in his 30s. I was in my mid-20s and I had a really energetic team and we were traveling all the time and it was just so fun. And yeah, I was in event management, so organising charity fund runs around Australia. And it was when he had his accident, I was about to have Annie, my second child, my second daughter. And yeah, it was a pretty tough time, to be honest, because it was just at a shit time. It was that time where I really wanted to have maternity leave and also he wasn't well enough to take care of her. I became a mum for the first time at 20. So I'd been dreaming about this maternity leave for a really long time, the chance to just relax and just focus on the baby and the family. I'd never experienced that because I became a mum so young. I kind of always was on and working. But anyway, it wasn't my fate, unfortunately, and probably for the better. I think being busy does suit me and my lifestyle. But very quickly we had to come up with a solution because his insurance, he did have some income protection, but he hadn't been updating it as his income had been growing over the years. So it was, a junior basically insurance coverage. And I just had to think quickly and go, what can I do with being at home? I knew that I couldn't go back into the workforce full time. And I knew that, yeah, I needed to become a business owner. That was the only solution that was coming up to my head. There wasn't a lot of, VAs or anything like that at the time. It was pre that pretty much. I mean, there might have been, but it wasn't highly known. So I decided to use my skill set and start an event management company in Geelong. And something that was on my side was the fact that I had a lot of corporate relationships because of my previous work. And luckily, I did pick up work pretty quickly. Cotton On contracted me straight away. God love them. They were so good. And then the likes of Country Road and Bowen Health Foundation and lots of kind of those big corporate organisations, they just started calling me because of those connections saying, hey, we've got an event coming up. Do you think that you'd be able to manage it for us? And that was unreal. And I loved the type of work. But I got a quick reality check of what business actually means. And it's not just the service that you're delivering. There's so much more involved with that. Managing teams, being a good manager, paying them, paying taxes, all of those things that you just don't really think about when you go into business. You know that it's a thing, but you don't know how big it is to running a successful business. And so I really struggled. I struggled with understanding how to run a business that has such seasonal income as well. I'd get paid lots of money and then nothing for a while. And so, there'd be times where we'd had heaps of money in the bank account and then times where there'd be literally nothing in the bank. We're like, oh, shivers, we're going to have to call our parents. How embarrassing is that? Like there's not any money in the bank account to even get groceries. And so, yeah, I couldn't find any good solutions. And that was just, it was a really tough time.
And so, I mean, from the outside, it probably looked like you were running this amazing event management company and everyone thought
Yeah.
you were feeling really successful, but it didn't really feel like that on the inside to you.
Oh my goodness, no. And, it did look glamorous because I was organizing to a point these really glamorous events. And I know another, a lot of event managers that I knew really were like, how did you get those big events straight away? And they were, a lot of them had thousands of people going to them. They were big. And a lot of my friends would say to me, you've been through such a difficult time, such adversity, yet you've just come in and you've just, you're flying. And, it was because I was making quite a bit of money through and I was executing really good events, but just more money kept going out than was coming in, or I didn't know how to manage it properly. And so to me, I just felt stressed all of the time, particularly when the tax bill would come. I'd get tax payment plans and I'd be like, oh, there should be more money in the bank. But,
Mm.
I think as well, I went from having to have one wage to then covering two wages, or the majority of two
Yeah,
wages too.
absolutely.
So there were a lot of factors in it, but I definitely did not feel successful. I just felt incompetent, to be honest. Like
Mm.
outside of the event side, as a business owner, I felt incompetent. I was like, I don't know how to do this. This is too hard.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure in that provider role. I definitely see that in my husband, feeling like he's the one that looks after everybody. And um, so, at what point did you make a decision about where to go with the business and what you needed to know?
Yeah. So I was 3.5 years in, and I could have kept going. Like I could have kept struggling through, but after, conversations with our accountant and bookkeepers, and I just couldn't seem to understand. I knew the basics of what it meant to pay tax and everything, but I just couldn't get my head around profit and what we would have to do to make it really successful and to not feel stressed. So yeah, at that 3.5 year mark, I decided that that was enough and that I'd need to go and find what else I was going to do. And to be honest, it was really embarrassing, probably mainly just because I'd gone into something and then 3 years later, no, I'm not doing that anymore. So that to me, I felt so much shame around that.
Yeah.
Even though my friends and everyone were like, oh my God, like we can't believe what you did. I really struggled with that.
Mm.
And so it took me maybe 3 or 4 months just to get over that and figure out who I was. I remember going on a real soul searching time, and I don't do this anymore, but I was, speaking to psychics and just trying to find all of life's answers for me.
Mm.
And it wasn't until I realized that those answers were really only going to come from me and,
Mm.
my relationship with what I believe in. And so after a while, I knew that I wanted to be a business owner, even though I didn't feel competent. I knew that it was important to me because I had a taste of it, right? That income, unlimited income possibility, the time
Mm.
freedom. I really liked that. And I thought, well, I need to figure out how to do it properly. And so it came after a while. I started studying. I actually studied to become a health coach. I was the co-founder of the Healthy Hustlers podcast. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to help people to transform themselves. That was, you know, how do they get from where they are now to where they really desire to be? And so I went
Mm.
really down that line. And it was through that period that I just fell in love with, high level coaching and personal development. Um, but I still wasn't sure what my true path was. Like if someone asked me what I did, I felt embarrassed to tell them because I didn't really know. Also, a lot of imposter syndrome, as a lot of people have. They're like, I used to feel like, who am I to try and help people? Do you know what
Mm.
I mean? Like
Mm.
that came through all the time. But then one day I came across Profit First, probably similar to you did. I found it and I read the book, and it's like these sparks went off, these fireworks went off, and I was like, oh my God, like why didn't someone tell me about this book when I was searching back in the day? Because
Mm.
I feel like it would have really saved my business. But actually, everything happens for a reason, right? And
Yeah.
COVID happened and my business would have ended anyway. Um, So you can't have that mindset. But I just remember at the time going, it would have made a lot more sense. And business finally made sense to me. And I felt like I could go back into business and be unstoppable because I knew I was good at what I did. It was the money side that really tripped me up. And so I finally felt like I had a method. And it wasn't until I implemented it into my business and saw that, it really works and that it is great, that I then kind of kept following that path and decided that I really wanted to teach business owners how to manage their cash flow, because everywhere I, looked and whoever I spoke to felt out of control with their money. And they were in the same, even though it probably wasn't as dire as the situation that I was in at the time, they definitely felt shaky with their cash flow. And I knew that I could have an impact there. So I decided to become a profit first professional.
And now the world's your oyster. And it's, I mean, I am part of your Facebook group and I can see the impact that it makes on people and how that transformation happens once they have that knowledge and that empowerment and they go, suddenly this makes sense. And certainly that's how I have felt too. What do you love about Profit First, I guess, in comparison to kind of any other systems that you've come across?
I think it's all the clarity that I love the most. It just breaks it all down into simple terms. We're all responsible for the key 5 things, which is making money, which is your income, paying taxes, paying your operating expenses, paying yourself, making a profit. They're the 5 really important things in business. And it just shows you exactly how to separate that income into those 5 categories. And so you've just, even when you make decisions that might not look great on paper, which, sometimes I still do, you have that awareness, because that was the biggest thing that I would always feel so badly about, was the fact that I just didn't know. I felt out of control. I felt out of the loop. I didn't have that awareness. So I love that probably the most about Profit First. And I love how simple it is. You don't need to have a finance degree. It's so simple. It takes all of the jargon and the crap out of finance, and it just really helps you to, make life simple.
Yeah, I love it. And so what does your business look like now, these days?
Yeah, so I knew that the way that I am and the way that I operate, I wanted to help multiple people and, kind of give people a crash course into Profit First. I didn't want to be in people's businesses for months and months and months, because it's just not my style. I want to be like, and because I honestly do believe that it's basic. I believe that you can learn and have the empowerment yourself. And then if you want to go and find someone else to do long-term finance coaching, that's great. But I really believe that all you need is the key things, and you can go out and go on and start thriving. So I have an online course where I teach some simple modules of how to implement it into your business, and then how to understand what those next steps are in turning your business to be more profitable. So I have the online course. I do a one-on-one session with people if they want to go a bit deeper and just have eyes on their business. So we do a cash flow analysis on their business. And then we have a Facebook group and weekly calls. And that allows me to be able to touch as many people as I can and help them. And also have that flexibility in my life that I really enjoy too.
What is one piece of advice that you would give to business owners starting out?
Learn about cash flow early. I know that it's just like, that's a real money thing. One, I think you've got to back yourself. That's something that I've always struggled with, and really only this year, I think I have more confidence in myself, more than ever before, because, we always have that person or whatever it is sitting on your shoulder going, who are you? Like, what do you think you're doing? I know that's definitely been my case, but I think, you have to back yourself, and you're only going to feel more confident as you do it. So you've just got to get out there and just do it, do what you're trying to do. And the more that you do it, the more confident you will feel. It's not the other way around. So that's the first bit. And then the second thing is, just get a cash flow system into your business quickly, because it will just help every decision that you're making. It will make you feel confident about, who you are as a business owner as well. And that's it'll also help your stress levels when tax time comes around.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I know you've been quite open about the fact that you've invested pretty highly in professional development and high-level coaching. Can you talk about that and the importance of that for you?
Yeah. So I think as well, my husband still he works in our business now. So I'm still the main breadwinner of the family, I would say. And so we got to this tricky point where we got quite lucky. A lot of people won't have this opportunity to invest this amount of money, but he had a insurance payout, a lump sum payout at one point, and we had this money sitting in the bank account. We're like, okay, we could go two ways. We can put a really big, decent deposit on a house, or we can invest it in me and my skill set to improve my skill set so that I can make more money long term. And that was a really scary point because it was putting it on me, right? We also got really good insurance. So if something does happen to me, it's kind of like a plan. But because I was like, what if we put all that money in me and then I get hit by a car? And like, do you know how you say those silly things? But yeah, I decided to get the insight into running a really successful business. I wanted to surround myself with really successful business owners. And so I decided to put a lot of cash flow into high-level coaching in America, particularly because I just love the way that Americans work and their entrepreneurship. And so last year and the year before, it was like $200,000 that I ended up, investing into different opportunities, whether it was different retreats with really, high-level entrepreneurs or whether it was coaching programs. And you don't need to spend that much money. I don't want anyone to think that they can't be successful if they don't have that cash flow and invest in themselves. But it did help me to make really good relationships with different people, learn what they're doing behind the scenes in their business, and also just get myself a bit of a roadmap of what I'm doing. And it's weird because the way that I have implemented it in my business is not the way that I thought I would. Of course, we don't have that insight at the time. I thought that I would, go all in on making Lady Without Limits this huge national brand, which I still am really passionate about Lady Without Limits, and it's got a place and it will continue to grow in the future. But actually, funnily enough, we've created a product that we're about to release into the US market. And it's interesting, when that kind of came about, we were halfway through developing that product, I was like, oh, okay, this is actually what it was all for. And I feel like Lady Without Limits will actually be a lot stronger brand once I've gone down this path, because I can, walk the talk with a product that's not, teaching people how to manage their money. I'm actually going and doing it on the forefront, and I can teach from that experience too. So yeah, it's so funny how the world, how the universe, whatever you want to, God, whatever you want to call it, works. But yeah, I guess that was my story with investing and coaching. And I still think that the quickest way to get somewhere is to find someone that's done it before and get mentored by them. And there's lots of different ways that you can do that. There's lots of different mentors. I just definitely surround yourself with people who are already doing the things that you want to be doing in whatever capacity that is, whether it's just even reading books and listening to their podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely. I imagine you gave a few people some connections when you made that decision to invest in some random American mentors rather than buying a house and being sensible.
Seriously, I know. And like every now and then I'll be like, what did I do? But it's the bigger picture, right? And yeah, like I wouldn't have even had the idea for Mellow if I didn't go into this particular coaching program, because the idea came from that point in time when I was there. So it's just really weird how sometimes you've got to make the decision for you and then back yourself. And no matter what happens, you can't change it. And yes, I haven't got that house in Barwon Heads right now, but it'll come, and it'll hopefully be an even better house down the track.
Absolutely. And what I love about watching you, and I know you talk about your imposter syndrome, which I think we all experience, but you start before you're ready, and you get out there and you just make stuff happen. And it's really inspiring. I love watching how you just go and make it happen. So I love that. Thank you. You have 3 beautiful daughters who are now 2, 6, and 13. Is that right?
Yeah, you're good. Yep.
I read the website.
Yeah.
And, you've got great taste in names too. You've got an Annie in there.
Yes.
Tell me, how do you juggle motherhood and business ownership?
Yeah, look, I'm not going to lie, it's hard. And on some days I want to cry because I just feel like there's so much chaos, particularly when the house is a mess. I think everything's worse when the house is a
Definitely.
mess. So I'm really trying to train the younger two to put their toys back in their bedroom because they can just grab toys and leave them everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, it's hard, but I think I got a really good lesson a couple of years ago when my eldest daughter Lily just got into that real preteen age. She went from being my little sidekick who literally would come with me everywhere and just loved me and just wanted to be with me to not wanting a bar of me. And it was that COVID time as well. So it was pretty, everything was not great, particularly with that teenage, age group. But the thing that just kept coming up for me was how quickly her childhood went.
Yeah.
And it just literally flew by in a minute. And I was so sad about it. And I was really reflecting, going, did I give her enough? Because I was really career focused when Lil was little. And even though you always forget and you're always hard on yourself, because I go through my phone and I've got so many photos of Lily and I together and doing things and at the park and doing all the things that mums do. I was like, I don't know whether or not I took that in enough that time, and now it's gone. And I love being a mum of a teenager. And I think what I'm trying to say is the biggest thing that I have tried to do is just be more there and savor the small moments, and just realize this, particularly with the younger girls, that it goes so fast. So I just, no matter what's happening, just be there for those, even if it's just bath time and, when they come home, having a really big cuddle and just,
Yeah.
But then with Lily, making sure that I'm at the netball games, I'm at the school events, and that is more important than work, because it truly is. Your relationships are more important than business. And I think I got on the success, path for a while. But now I'm just like, no, my family is my success and I'm doing it for them. So I have had a mindset shift in the last couple of years. And if it takes longer to be successful, then that's totally fine.
Yeah. And I think also, to put that in context, I mean, you were thrust into motherhood at a pretty young age. So, when most 20-year-olds are probably out establishing their careers and deciding to start businesses and what have you, you are becoming the sole provider for your family and, raising multiple small children. And so it's a lot to carry. And I think, and look, going through teenage years, parenting teenagers myself, sometimes it's the late night conversations when you really want to be going to bed, when that's when they want to chat. And that's been for me one of those, no, I need to stop and be here for this conversation, because you don't get a chance to do over, and they need to know that you're around to have those conversations regardless of the inopportune times that they happen.
Yeah, for me, I find the best conversations are always driving to netball. Lil plays netball. She plays 5 times a week. And so
wow.
I know I'm not involved in all of the driving of that, but most of it. And I find that when we're in the car, we've got some really good music on. That's when we can have like a really good conversation. And I'm like, but I'm like, if I didn't do that, if I didn't stop and find that netball really important, then we would miss those opportunities altogether. So you're right. It's just like making sure that regardless of how inconvenient it can be, just being like, no, she'll be out the door in a few years. Like, she's almost 14. She'll be out the door in 4 years. I've only got 4 years left. So yeah, motherhood and business is tough because you've got a lot of balls in the air. But yeah, I think I just keep going back to that mantra of like, there's no rush. There's no rush to get to any end point. this is life right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just be here now, being present. Yeah, absolutely. How do you find joy when life feels hard?
Oh, it's funny again. It's those little moments. I think COVID was really good for me and bad for me in ways because I got so used to my own company and being at home.
Mm,
And being around obviously around my family, but I used to always want to be out doing things. But now I put a lot of value into the family connection and family relationships that I have. And so even if, you know, finances feel stressful or business feels really busy, those little moments where, we're on the couch, we're having a laugh, my husband and I having an espresso martini, nothing else outside of that. Like we're perfect in that moment. Everything's really
mm,
good in that moment. And no matter what is outside of that, I've got my family, and that's the most important thing. So it's definitely those. And also, I have this mantra. It's something that my husband and I have said to each other for years and years. We just did like a little fist knock, and we're like, we've got this no
mm.
matter what. So I think it's just realizing that your worst times, it's temporary, it will pass. It
Yeah.
really will pass. Every moment that I've been in the depths of despair have passed. And then I've had awesome moments. I think that's life. I think there's going to be great moments. There's going to be really low moments. We're there to just feel all of them and just to keep progressing through.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, how do you fit or do you fit self-care into your life? Is there anything that you do on a semi-regular basis?
Yeah. So I'm not always perfect at self-care. I do try
No
my
one is,
best.
so it's okay.
No, but reformer Pilates, I've got a reformer Pilates machine just out here. And so on the really good weeks, I'll do 3 or 4 sessions a week. When I'm super stressed or I've got to get up early, I might do 1 session a week. And I've just learned that that's okay. So for me, exercise is a big deal because I really don't feel great in my body, and not even from a looks perspective, but from a strength and pain perspective as well.
Yeah.
So exercise is big for me. The other thing, I really love listening to inspiring podcasts. To me, that gives me a lot of fuel and just, I don't know, I get spine tingles listening to people's stories, and it makes me feel like it's possible for me too. So I love listening to podcasts. And then the last thing is just a quick daily practice. And we've spoken about the daily practice before, but it's just writing 3 things I'm grateful for, 3 affirmations, and then 5 goals, and your goals stay the same. And that just helps me to feel grateful for my life, and just kind of see what I'm working towards on paper. And I try then do that most days. But yeah, at least a few times a week I'll do that.
Yeah, I love that practice. That's really beautiful. Do you have a quote or a mantra that's inspired you in moments where you've needed a little bit of extra motivation?
Yeah. And I think this is one that helps me, again, to back myself, because as I said at the start of the podcast, I'm an eternal optimist. And sometimes I question myself. And so there's this quote that Ralph Carroll has, and it's nobody succeeds beyond their wildest expectations without first having some wild expectations.
Yeah, love
And
it.
I love that, because often we think our dreams are too big, but we're never going to walk towards them, and we're never going to go for anything if we don't first have some pretty big, dreams for our life. So I really, really love that one.
Awesome. I have a Mama Love mixtape on Spotify. Is there a song that I can dedicate for you that lifts your spirits?
Yes. It's so random though. It's Maroon 5, Girls Like You. And
Amazing. Love it. Love a bit of Maroon 5.
yeah, I love that, because we haven't done it for a while, but at our previous house, we used to put it on in the morning when my husband was making coffee, and the kids and myself and our family would dance around the house to that song. And so when I read that question, I was like, oh, what's a really good prolific song? And that's the song that came out. I'm like, no, this is a song that actually gets me in a
Yeah.
good mood and makes me the happiest. So that's Maroon 5, Girls Like You.
You got to trust that when that intuition comes through.
Yeah. And that's what I'm like that. No, I'm strongly feeling that's the song. Yeah.
That's a beautiful association. I love it. Now, you did talk about it a little bit before, but tell me you're working on something pretty darn exciting at the moment.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned before, we have our kava. We've created a kava sparkling beverage. So basically, if you don't know what kava is, it's a root plant from the Pacific Islands, from like Vanuatu and Fiji. And the roots have these active kava lactones in them, and they basically relax you. So they hit your spinal cord, funnily enough, and it's a relaxant. And I love it, but it tastes so bad over there. And the way that it's traditionally consumed, it's like, it's created by the hands, and it basically tastes like muddy grit. And even the Pacific Islanders will say, we don't drink it for the taste.
Yeah.
We just like the way that it makes us feel, and it brings our community together, and it helps us to solve our problems and connect with their higher power. And so, yeah, weirdly, I just had this idea after having a weekend of binge drinking at my best friend's wedding, being like, I've been drinking since I was 15 and I just can't keep showing up that way. I get stressed, like I'm sure everybody gets stressed, and my vice is alcohol. And even though it's not like a alcoholic get drunk, slur, fall on the ground, a couple of glasses of wine every few nights does have an impact on your health. And then also, when you do go out and have those bigger nights, it can put you out for a week. And it really does impact your health and your business as well. So when I heard about kava, I did a bit of research and realized that there's nothing in Australia yet. That's because it's not quite regulated here. But also there wasn't anything great in the States. We decided to create the drink. Now, I have to say, I got really lucky because one of my really close friends, her dad owns kava farms in Vanuatu. So we had a direct.
That's convenient.
That's convenient. And that's the thing, like this all happened it was divine how it happened. The timing, the fact that I was already kind of coaching one of my best friend's one of my best friend's husbands. It was just meant to be. And so we decided to take the kava, formulate it with an incredible food scientist in Melbourne first. We were like, if we can get it to a point that it tastes really good, like if we can take out the bitterness, the muddiness, if we can put the kava lactone into a drink that tastes like you're drinking, a really nice tropical cocktail, then, that's also healthy for you, sugar-free, all of those things, then we'll take it over to the States and we'll get it out there, and then hopefully be the first to market in Australia. So that was a year ago now. And I'm going back to America on Thursday, and we're doing our first production run. So it's crazy. It's really exciting. Never done anything like this before. So again, like just going for it before I'm ready. But I'm really proud of what we've created, and I really see that gap in the market. So yeah, fingers crossed. You'll have to get me back on the podcast in a year's time.
Absolutely.
We'll see what happened. I'll either be licking my wounds going, oh my God, what did I do? Or it'll work. I've got a good feeling about it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. But what I love about you is that everything that you do, you learn from, right? So, I mean, obviously it's a pretty big thing. And as I've said to you before, I think most people would have gone, yeah, that's a great idea. No, that seems too hard. But Amy goes, yeah, that seems like really hard, but I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah. Yep. And I've really learned that it's all about who you meet in relationships. Honestly,
yeah, totally.
Every supplier that we've been able to get into over in the States is because I was just relentless and would not give up calling them until somebody would take me seriously. So you've got to get on the phone in some of those situations and just talk to people. And I find that when when you are serious about something and they can hear it in your voice, they're going to want to help you. So yeah, that has definitely helped to get this project off the ground.
Yeah. And, look, I think that comes back to A, your optimism, and B, your ability to back yourself. And I love it. Yeah. You are an inspiration, Amy Bett. How do we find and follow you?
So the easiest way to follow me is my Instagram page is Mrs. Amy Bett. It was just Amy Bett, but I changed Instagram, so it's now Mrs. Amy Bett. And then my website is just amybett.com, can't even spell my name, amybett.com. You can find kind of everything about me there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for all the magic that you put out into the world in making people's businesses easier to run with their cash flow systems, and just for being you and that fun, high vibe energy that you put out in the world. It is a pleasure to know you.
Oh, thanks, Annie, and right back at you. Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to today's episode of the Light Seekers Lounge podcast. I am so grateful to have you here. If you loved the show, it would mean the world to me if you could hit subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. I would love to continue the conversation with you, so come on over and join the Light Seekers Lounge Facebook group, or come say hi to me on Instagram at annielove.coach. Talk to you soon.